Hello and welcome to the Race to Speak Up podcast. I'm your host, Devin Moore. Today's guest is Achaia Ravizee. Achaia is currently in her pursuit of a doctorate of education degree in curriculum and instruction and plans to use gained knowledge toward the organization she's founded, Beyond Boundaries Global Leadership and STEM Academy. Beyond Boundaries values are faith, integrity, honesty, and transparency. They teach and they model these principles before themselves and their students with an overarching goal to produce caring and competent scholars. Welcome, Achaia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Achaia, I see we got our shirts on. I got that STEM shirt on. You got that mental health on.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. We got to support one another.
So why don't you start us off by telling us about Beyond Boundaries Global Leadership and STEM Academy?
So my company or nonprofit organization, Beyond Boundaries Global Leadership and STEM Academy, initially got started via my master's program at Old Dominion University. I came up with the structure of how I wanted the company to be ran. And now during my doctoral studies, I'm actually in a curriculum and instructions program with a concentration in STEM leadership. And this program is kind of teaching me the foundation of how I want my courses and my subjects to be taught, along with the research that needs to go into place to teach our African-American youth exactly how to understand these subjects.
So how exactly does your journey with STEM start?
So my journey with STEM starts literally middle school or high school. I remember taking all honors classes, all AP classes, just to kind of make sure I challenge myself. I knew I was really good at math. I was taking calculus before I got out of high school. And my godmom, Kimberly Gray, God bless her heart, when I told her and my family that I wanted to be a teacher, they were like, absolutely not. You know, your potential is so great. You're so talented. You're so gifted. You should pursue engineering. And she sat me down at her computer. We walked through all of the different types of engineers that are out there. And then I chose optical engineering, went on to get my master's in engineering management. And now I have my STEM academy. So I've kind of had a blessed and purposeful journey. And I'm so grateful for those who kind of inspired me along the way.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I love the background on that. I honestly do not see a lot of people of color in STEM. So
come on now.
Yeah. Why do you think there's a lack of people of color in STEM?
So I initially think that at a young age, African-American youth are kind of molded to think that they can't do it. They run into an initial hard problem, maybe in 5th grade, maybe in 6th grade, or maybe they've had a bad teacher along the way, and it kind of gets ingrained in their mind that these subjects are hard and I don't want to challenge myself to do it. Oh, that's really hard. Let me just stick to doing the bare minimum so I can just graduate high school or graduate college. And what I want to do is, which is why I'm starting with pre-K and kindergarten levels, is to start at the bottom foundation of the grade levels to kind of go from there on up to teach our youth that these subjects can be understood. We can understand these subjects. It's something that us as African Americans can thrive in. It shouldn't just be other nationalities that are dominating the field, because we do have the potential to succeed in STEM.
And I like how you're thinking with that, because we really do need to start at a very young age while the child is, still developing. Because we need to let them know you actually can do whatever you want,
Exactly.
Regardless of your ethnicity, your background, your race, regardless.
Yes.
You can do it, If I'm able to start an anti-bullying organization at 14, I was 14 at the time,
Okay.
Like us Black youth are amazing. Us Black people are amazing. We have so many talents,
right,
and we need to enact on them. But unfortunately, society doesn't really seem to like that.
Right.
They don't really seem to want to. Not every society. Let me make that clear. But still, it's not really taught. So that's why it's good to hear that you're even able to focus in on that and allow for young or Black youth to really express their talents, and you're giving them a platform to do so too.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I love what you said about how you started your organization at 14, because who does that? You know what I'm saying? I love how each generation gets better and better. So I'm 30 and you are, about to head to college. And it's like, wow, I started in my 20s. He's starting in his teens. So I love how each generation is getting better and better and better. That's so awesome.
And so also now, like while you're working or like while like in college and like working towards, getting your education and the curriculum and all of this, do you see a lot of people of color? Since that's also dealing with STEM, do you see a lot of people of color?
So I do see a lot of people of color, but and I think because I went to a historically Black college and university, I went to a HBCU for my undergraduate degree. Again, I got my undergraduate degree in optical engineering. And so I was in a scholarship program called DNEMIS, a full ride scholarship to Norfolk State University. And DNEMIS stands for Desorts National Institute for Mathematics and Applied Sciences Program. So it was a four-year scholarship program that started from freshman year to your senior year. But at a HBCU, once again, historically Black college and university, it was kind of like we were all there to gain our STEM degrees. And so initially at Norfolk State University, I felt like I had a family-oriented environment where I could learn, make mistakes, and grow. However, when I got to my master's degree at a PWI, I kind of saw the difference in that you can try to pursue a STEM degree as an African American person, but the family-oriented camaraderie may not be there. You may feel like you're kind of by yourself. And I think for me, because I was in graduate school, it was a little easier because, I had already been through undergrad. I had my core set of friends. I had my core set of colleagues that I could lean on and rely on to get me through my master's degree. But that's the big difference. I feel like I definitely felt like I was surrounded by African-American professionals in undergrad because of my experience. But if you ever find yourself wanting to pursue a STEM program and you're at a PWI, I would just say reach out to organizations like NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers. There are other great programs on campus that can kind of help you get through your 4-year degree.
And I like how you added on that last part, because my next question was going to be like, what advice would you give to other Black youth who really want to get involved in STEM?
Right.
Yeah, I actually, and it's kind of funny because I have multiple Black friends actually who want to get into STEM, but it's just like they didn't necessarily know how, Right. And so like by you honestly just teaching me and like, teaching our audience, we're really able to learn, you're not alone as a person of color going into STEM, you're not alone. We have Achaia, we have our other Black brothers and sisters who are really trying to get into this. And like, it's STEM, it's science, technology, engineering, math, like that's really cool. You have your talent in that, which honestly, I just kind of see that as really hard because it's like such complicated things, but it's not impossible. That's just what I have to like, yeah.
And that's the thing I am so excited to do, is start changing that narrative to help our youth see, yes, it may be difficult, but guess what? It's not impossible.
So why don't you tell us about some of the events and different activities that you have that beyond STEM boundaries?
So right now we have 2 scholarships that we host for collegiate students. One is 500, our Dalton Scholarship. Another NSU and ODU alumni of mine, Cedrica Dalton, who's the sponsor for that one. We think we're upping it to 1,000 this year. We got to see how the finances go, but we're trying to be able to blessing to those who may need the scholarship money. We also have our Tracy C. Harrison a scholarship coming out this year. That'll be a $500 award. Looking forward to blessing those individuals who apply and that individual who's selected as the winner. We have summer camps that we want to initiate that are on our website that we want to get started. Right now, we're in the process of finding a building and fully getting our doors open. So I established the Beyond Boundaries Global Leadership and STEM Academy officially in 2020. And since then, I've kind of been learning how to transfer a corporate company to a nonprofit, doing all the background stuff. I've hired a grant company. They've been writing grants for me. So I've been learning how to write grants as well. So I've been kind of doing, and as well as being in school to make sure I'm learning the process of developing a curriculum. So I feel like I'm taking it slowly to make sure that it's long lasting and that I have longevity. But the programs and things that are on that we do for like the academy, you can definitely find on our website. And we're also doing a K-12 scholarships as well this year. I haven't decided if I'm going to give $250 or one or five $100 scholarships to the K-12 students. Just got to figure out how I want to work it out, but we want to be a blessing to those who are going to college and those in K-12 as well.
Well, Achaia, that's amazing. Like you're doing all
Thank
that
you.
like about to get a whole building dedicated to, help giving youth a platform to enact on their talents. I'm gonna keep saying that because I'm like, I think it's almost like magical, or I don't know if I want to say that word. It's really amazing when
Yes.
like, you know what you want to do and you go into it. And then especially when it's STEM, it really gets your mind thinking, as you already know, but it really gets
Right.
your mind thinking doing these types of things. So I'm like, that's so exciting. And so now, Achaia, I kind of want to go back to like, I know you're telling me about your journey with STEM. And so like, as far as that, when you were younger, I know we talked about being a Black person or a Black youth who is going into STEM. Did you ever feel almost isolated or like genuinely told like you weren't able to go into this field just for like simply being Black or simply being like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And so initially when I was in high school, my high school was kind of predominantly Caucasian. And in my specific classes, in my honors, all of my honors classes, I was in the class with a lot of Caucasians. And it wasn't a problem, but it was kind of like I almost didn't even know my own potential and what I really had within until I got to my HBCU at Norfolk State University. I was the president, vice president, and secretary of NSBE for like different years. I was the ambassador for Thurgood Marshall College Fund as for a couple of years. And I did so many other things that kind of helped me see like, God really bestowed a lot of great things in me, and it's my obligation to make sure that I instill those into the next generation. So not necessarily feeling isolated in college. I think my time period where I felt most isolated was during my graduate school program.
Wow, Achaia, I'm loving all these things that you're telling me. Just keep on telling them. You did this in college, you did this, you're still doing this, and this. I love that. And I know there's something else that you say. One of your sayings is life has no meaning unless you live each day with no regret. Can you tell us what this means and why you say this?
So I actually, I have my mental health matters shirt on because I have my own personal journey with mental health. I was hospitalized a few times, literally like 2 or 3 months after graduating from Norfolk State University with my undergraduate degree. And so I initially didn't really know how I was going to kind of keep moving forward. And I was diagnosed as a bipolar disorder. I've kind of transitioned. I've been diagnosed that way. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2015. And now 2022, I've kind of transitioned to bipolar 2. So I've kind of moved past the rough patch of the disorder. But to answer your question and why I gave that backstory, when I got diagnosed, I was kind of like, and my mom as well, God bless her, she kind of definitely made me see like, okay, you have this problem, not problem, but you have this disorder. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to just lay down and take it, or are you going to know that you can still accomplish everything that God wants you to accomplish? And so I literally finished I graduated from Norfolk State, got my diagnosis, and then I started my master's degree like a year later. And it was tough. It was really tough. I had to like take my medication, make sure I was getting sleep. Even still, even with my doctoral program, taking my medication, making sure I'm getting sleep. But you have to know, you have to live life with no regrets and really just now that I'm here, I'm glad that I live life with no regrets as far as persevering through the obstacle, because I've made it to the other side of the trial and the tribulation.
Yeah, I really agree with that, just that whole model in general, because if you're able to do these things, then keep on going.
Right,
Get that master's degree, get that bachelor's degree, start
right,
that organization, do
right.
all these different things. And it's so cool how you were even able to start these things. And now you're working on, getting a whole building dedicated to your academy, which is amazing and something I know I definitely want to visit once it's like really in place.
Come
So
on, you have an invite.
exactly. It's so cool. And so now this is kind of a little bit changing the topic, but I want to
Okay.
ask you about your name, Acacia. I really love your name. What does it mean?
So my name is a couple things. It's I've heard of acacia honey. There's a tree in acacia. There's acacia tree in Africa, but my mom's personal choice for it is biblical, and it is a town in Jerusalem. So my sisters and my brother are all biblical names as well. My sister's name is Shekinah Glory, and my brother's name is John the Baptist. So God bless my mom. She's a born again believer, and I love her. So she definitely gave me my uniqueness from birth, because I mean, literally anytime I go anywhere, I love your name. It's so unique. And that's what I've been getting my whole life, which is a huge blessing.
I love that. I know with like a lot of Black parents, they definitely do relate it back to the biblical. I
Come on
have,
now.
yeah, I I can wow, actually, wow, now that I think about it, a lot of like my, like more so Black friends seem to all have like religious names now that I think about it. Now that I'm
Yes.
like thinking about it, I'm like, wait, no, why can I name so many people as we're talking about it? But
Yeah.
okay.
Seriously,
So,
that's yeah. So I'm not disappointed. I'm not, I just was blessed that I was able to get such a unique name. And I gotta just roll with, what I was given.
yeah, well, rolling with it and rolling with your amazing talents in STEM. What's something else that I know you gave a lot of good feedback just as we're talking? I mean, excuse me, advice just as we're talking. But like, what's something else that you would say to youth who are actually, like youth in general who want to get into STEM, but maybe scared, may have self doubt, may have lack of encouragement? What would you say to youth who want to get into STEM, who may be going through those things?
So the first thing I would say is to, first of all, find a support system. That could be your parents, that could be your counselor, that could be your advisor, that could be your classmate, that could be anybody that'll believe in you. And the second thing is to kind of like have confidence, and just know that you have the ability to handle anything that comes your way and never give up. A quick background: I was in calculus 2. My professor in college, he was just like undergrad. He was like, "Yeah, you just need to drop my class because you're going to fail." And I took that on as a challenge. I was just like, "So you think I'm going to fail your class?" Like, okay, cool, we'll see. And so when you're faced with those obstacles during your journey as youth and you're in STEM, you kind of have to know that you have what it takes to accomplish the goal. I also would say utilize your teachers and your professors' office hours. So if you have a teacher, if you're K through 12, definitely go to those after school math programs, go to any after school tutoring programs that they have in your local community. And if you're on the collegiate level trying to push your way through, stay in your professor's office. They have office hours for a reason, and that is their designated time to help you through your courses, to help you through your subjects. And last but not least, find a community, as I kind of said in the beginning, find a community that'll support you throughout your entire journey.
Well, thank you again for sharing that. What's been the most rewarding part of your journey dealing with, honestly, I just want to say STEM in general, like both
Right.
your academy and just your work with STEM? What's been the most rewarding part of your journey?
I think the most rewarding part that I've experienced is the feeling. We haven't even gotten into our building yet, and we haven't even kind of really started to hold classes where we're teaching the different subjects that we would like to teach. But so far, from the scholarships we've given, from our interactions with the community, I feel like the reward I've gotten, the satisfaction, the gratefulness and the gratitude, I should say rather, that I've gotten from making an impact. That's been the greatest reward, because it's okay. Yes, you can say, you make a lot of money in STEM. Yes, you do. Those are great things as well. But I feel like if you're not making an impact, you can have the as much money as you want, but you can still be unhappy. So just really making sure you're giving back to the community and trying to help others. I think that's been the most rewarding part, giving back and making an impact on our younger youth.
What would you say is the most challenging part of your journey?
The most challenging part of my journey, I think I've kind of went through that before, kind of like having to reprogram my brain a little bit after I got diagnosed as bipolar. And just kind of really just telling myself, I just literally made a reel 2 days ago, and I put a few pictures from undergraduate and from graduate school, kind of telling myself, despite how I transitioned through life, because I'm only 30. So at 40, I could, something else could happen, or not in a bad way, but the hardest part has been kind of just knowing who I am and knowing that I can accomplish anything despite the trial I go through. So I think that's been the most difficult part. As I've shared earlier, just kind of knowing that, I've been through some things, but just to keep going. So that's probably been the hardest part, learning how to find a new normal in all of that I've gone through.
I'm really happy that you kind of, I'm kind of really just happy that you're even bringing up, that your personal journey with mental health also. Because
Right.
I want to ask you just a few more questions about that, but
That's
also
fine.
if you want to explain what exactly bipolar 2 is.
So, I wish I had my paperwork. I will read it for you word for word. So bipolar 2 is more of, it's to say, it's kind of, how should I say? I'm trying to think how I should say this where people would understand. So bipolar 1, when I was bipolar 1, I kind of had, I would have episodes where I would kind of have I think they called it psychosis. It would be a psychosis state for about 1 or 2 days if I was overwhelmed, if I if I was too stressed, if I wasn't eating correctly, if I wasn't taking my medication, if I wasn't getting proper sleep. So when I say the other question you had, finding my new normal, that was the most challenging part. It definitely was, because now I'm like, okay, now I have to learn how to, I would still want to succeed in my STEM career, but I have my cross that I have to bear now too. And so that was the hardest part. And now bipolar 2 is basically it's more of a relaxed state. I'm not saying this will at all. And I want you guys to if anybody's watching this that is in the same position as I am, reach out to your psychiatrist, reach out to your therapist. I have a therapist and a psychiatrist, because I'm not giving these definitions the exact way I should be, but it's kind of a more relaxed state. It's not as intense as bipolar 1 is. And that's been a process. I've gotten to this, to bipolar 2. It's been a process to get there.
You see, that's so interesting, because I always, whenever I'm speaking to one of my guests and then they start talking about their mental health journey, and they may not be as focused on that, but then they have their own mental health journey, whether it be, depression or, these different types of, or anxiety, or these different types of things. And what
Right.
you're going through with bipolar 2, I'm always like, you really don't know what is going on behind closed doors. You can't
Yes.
necessarily look at the person and think, oh, Achaia has bipolar 2.
And
You can't do that.
It's so funny that you say that, because for a while, I struggled with being transparent with it. What I would do is I had unhealthy ways of trying to vent what I was going through. And now, thank God, I have my significant other in my life who has completely kind of changed my life for the better. And when I met him, I kind of he gave me a reason to get my life under control. Okay, I do have a future. I can get married. I can have kids. And so if you're going through something right now with bipolar disorder, whatever your mental health journey is, just kind of know that you just hang in there. reach out to those who support you and love you. Find a therapist, find a psychiatrist, and they will help you along the way.
No, you're just like spitting facts right now. You're giving so much great advice. Cause like so I never really get into this one story, but I'm going to share this with you because I really like how you're like telling me about what you have gone through.
Right.
So I was at my old school. That is where I went through racism. Those three white boys decided to put my face onto such horrid, disgusting, racist images with like a gun to my head, my face on a gorilla suit, my face going into the trash, and continuing to send more images with a KKK member, a noose, and a meme literally saying Black people aren't functioning members of society. Now, so obviously, that's terrifying. Obviously, my 14-year-old self would say, I'm scared, I don't want to go through this. Luckily, my 14-year-old self was strong enough to go speak to my parents about it, which is a good thing. I always say to speak up. But
right.
now, that with bullying in general, it always has such negative mental health impacts. With me, I went through anxiety, I went through depression, but something I never really talk about too much is the fact that the day after graduation, I actually had a seizure because of all of the stress. Like the doctor said, like, Devin, so obviously telling the doctor stuff. So he knew what was going on. And so he was like, Devin, it's stress. That was your cause. And then like him looking at everything else, taking like, x-rays brain and all that stuff. It was stress. And I'm like, I didn't know stress could lead to a seizure.
Yes.
I didn't know this could lead to this. I didn't know that could lead to that, And so that was really terrifying to me because now I'm in the now and I'm still like, there's still a part of me in the back of my brain. Luckily, therapy has helped me out with this and just kind of also speaking to other people who have had their own experiences with like mental illness or mental disorders, things like that. It's helped, but it's still a little bit of a fear that I'm going to have another seizure because of all this stress. It's almost made me aware of myself,
Right. And so it's so crazy that you say that because my initial episode, my mother was told it's a really deep story that I'll say. I don't want to get into it here, but because it involves a church organization. But the night that I was initially taken to my first hospital, I was at a church organization. And when I got to the hospital, they initially told my mom that I had been drugged. And it was just really deep. It was really deep. And so my initial thrust into this mental health journey was because of something that I didn't even do myself. And so it was very hard for me to handle that because it was like, these people were supposed to love me. They're supposed to cherish me. They're supposed to take care of me, all of that. And so what I learned, to get back to your point, is that this happened to me not of my own doing. It happened to me at a setting where I should have felt safe, where I should have felt comfortable. And actually, I asked high members of that, the night that they took me to, I'll never forget, this was in Norfolk, Virginia. The night that they took me to Centera Hospital, I asked a few of the leadership there. I was like, hey, can I just like hang out at your house until my mom gets there? They all said no. And so it was very devastating for me. And I actually stayed in the mental ward until my mom came to pick me up. So one of my choir members, I used to sing on the choir. So one of my choir members came to my mom's house and was like, hey, Achacia's in the hospital. And she was like, no, she's not. She's probably just hanging out. Mind you, I'm coming home from college. My mom isn't used to me being home a lot. She's used to me like still going places and doing my own thing. She was like, no, she's probably just with her friends or whatever. So I indeed was at the hospital, and she came, and that was kind of the start of my mental health journey. While in the hospital that night, when I initially got there, someone came to pick me up. And I knew that it wasn't my mom because the voice wasn't familiar. So I kind of like I was trying to explain to the mental health counselors and professionals there that listen, whoever this is coming to pick me up, this is not my mom. I can hear her voice. I didn't see her, but I'm trying to explain like, this is not my mom. So they initially ended up giving me a shot that kind of like knocked me out a little bit. And so serious, Devin, to this day, like one of my eyes still not right. But they initially ended up giving me a shot. I kind of went to sleep, and then I woke up, and then I got they ran a whole bunch of tests on me, and then I was in like the actual mental ward of the hospital. Devin, when I tell you this story, is crazy. It literally lets me know that the enemy tried so hard to just take everything from me that I had accomplished, because he knew my future was so bright. And I'm just so glad that I have the family and the people in my life that helped build me back up. Crazy story. But to get back to your question, you initially said your stress kind of led you to your seizure, and you realizing that the deal. And the same thing with me. So my psychiatrist now and my therapist, they tell me now that any type of psychosis episode that I may experience, and I haven't had one in like 3 years now, thank God to my significant other Rodney, who's really become a pivotal role in that. He's on me every day. Devin, like, did you take your medicine? Like, how did you get this? I know you want to accomplish one more thing. I know you want to send one more email, but you need to go to bed. So he's like on me, making sure that I remain healthy and happy. But yes, my psychiatrist and my therapist now know that any type of psychosis episode that comes my way is triggered by stress. So when I feel like I'm overwhelmed, or I feel like I'm doing too much, because I still work a 9-to-5 job as a program analyst, and in spite of everything else I'm doing, but I just kind of have to know my limits and know when I can stay up a little later to get the assignment done, or know when I have to call it a night.
Achaia, I kind of want to, firstly, wow, that's a crazy story.
Isn't it? It's insane.
Like, how did you even go through that? Well, because you were like knocked out.
I was aware of myself when I initially got dropped off. And I won't say which church official dropped me off at the hospital, but I stayed at the hospital. I was in like in a room kind of off to the side, and I gave them my mother's information. I gave them all my information, and I thought my mom was coming to pick me up. So then I think I personally think it was somebody from the church who was trying to pick me up, because I think that once the pastor got notified of what happened, he may have been trying to help and do damage control. I don't really know, but I just know I was already kind of in a frightened state, and I knew that it wasn't my mom. And so I wanted my mom. And so I think, of course, the wrong thing to do if you're already in like a mental arena or a mental hospital is to like raise your voice. But I literally just started screaming, like, that's not my mom. I'm ready to go home. It was just a long night. And so they shot me with the I'm not sure what medication it was, but they shot it in my lower hip, and I calmed down. I went to sleep, woke up, and then 2 days later, after my choir member like went to go get my mom, that's when I saw my mom. Crazy story, I know, but it's my journey, it's my testimony, and so all I can do now is share it to try to like empower the next youth coming up. Like your story may not be as crazy as mine was, but you can still get through whatever you're going through.
Achaia, I seriously have like no words. I was really not, expecting unexpected, but I was not expecting you to even talk about that. Wow.
Yeah, it definitely was a pivotal moment for me. But to go back to your question, I think I really taught myself, and my mom, God bless her, kind of paved the way for me, because her major was in psychology. So she kind of like had the background knowledge a little bit of how to handle the whole situation. And I just literally had to tell myself, and my godparents as well, Kimberly and Roosevelt Gray, they really helped me through the entire situation. And I just literally had to tell myself, one day at a time. You're going to get through this one day at a time. Don't think about how you're going to finish your master's program, because that's 2 years from now. Just focus on today. So I think that's some good advice to anybody struggling with mental health, anybody trying to get through your STEM program or your STEM degree, one day at a time.
Well, I want to thank you again for sharing that and like just really diving in deep and letting us into your life as far as just your mental health journey. And of course with STEM. So I know we did honestly discuss like what you want to do going forward, you know, with getting your building, which as we said, I'm
Yes.
definitely coming. But
Thank you. We'll have the invite.
so exactly. But so what else what are your other hopes and dreams for your for the academy moving forward?
Okay, so my hopes and dreams is that my research will prove that our students can do this. So my research is based off of Howard Gardner. He was a Harvard degree psychologist, and he initially came up with the idea that there are multiple intelligences and that people can learn by way of music, by way of speech, by different methodologies. And so what I've been doing in school, what I've been learning in school is to kind of like, how can I tap into previous research, apply it to what these kids need to currently learn so that we can help all African-American youth learn more about STEM. So our 5 learning intelligences that we're going to teach is audio, the sound, interpersonal, group setting, intrapersonal, individual, object-based, which is through objects, and linguistic, which is just through verbal. And those are going to be our 5 methodologies for how we teach the STEM subjects to our youth. And through graded tests and through graded exams, I'm going to initially have a group of, we call it no MIT and MIT in my research papers and stuff. So one group will be given an exam with just the regular way we teach, and another group will be given an exam via those 5 intelligences I just went through. And I'm hoping that the research will be able to prove that the teaching via multiple intelligences, the scores will be higher, so that we can say if we're able to teach these subjects this way, then maybe these students who are deemed, unable to study, unable to understand the concepts, African Americans, that they don't understand math, maybe we can give ourselves a chance to help our youth get it.
I really like that. I really do. Because it's like you really are catering to a bunch of different communities by like focusing in on these like different ways of learning that you just explained.
Right.
I like that because it's like linguistics and the different ways that people learn. You're really honing in on that.
Right.
Them. That's really cool. That's sorry. I'm just kind of like about to fanboy over that. That's really cool.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I have to initially, once again, shout out my significant other, because when we were having our literally in the car after dates, I'm like, babe, I want to start a STEM academy. He's like, what you mean? Let's do it. This is what we about to do. And I'm like, okay, babe, like you believe in me? Like, okay, let's do this. And he initially gave me the 5 types of intelligences that we were gonna use to help the African American youth. But when I got enrolled into my doctorate degree, that's when I was able to add like the professional research onto his initial 5 topics, and that kind of expounded how we're going to be able to help them.
Well, you see, that's the type of support that we need. That's the type of support that we need. Mm-hmm. So, and then you mentioned that you're a program analyst. What exactly is that?
So I work for the Department of Defense, as a program analyst. And what we do is we program DON, Department of Navy, POM, Programs, Objectives, Memorandum, and Execution Guidance cycles, where we are looking at out-year availabilities for carriers and submarines. And we are literally programming when those submarines and carriers are going to have maintenance done on them. And we have to budget for that as well. So we're talking big picture, millions and millions of dollars that we're programming for the submarines and the Navy carriers to kind of have their regular maintenance done on them.
Okay, that's that Black empowerment. I see you.
Yes.
I love that.
And, come on now, wait, and I got a Black supervisor.
Okay. Okay. I see you. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on this podcast and just chatting up with me. This is really good. And thank you for really opening up to me. I truly appreciate that. Just like me personally, because that also allowed for me to also just think about how there are certain things I don't necessarily open up about when it comes to just
Right.
my own personal story. Because I never really
Right.
talk about how I had a seizure. But I think that's because it's almost like a little too traumatizing, just because I know
Right.
that it could potentially happen again based on the things that
Right.
I've learned. And I look at people who have epilepsy and the different types of epilepsy, and it's just like, seeing other people who are having their own, whether it be mental illness or disorder or anything, and they're also they're not letting that hold them back. They're continuing to do that, like excuse me, they're continuing to be great, like how you're continuing to be great
Right.
and using your platform to help others, helping our Black youth, helping our POC youth.
Yeah.
I love that. So thank you so much for coming on the Race to Speak Up podcast and sharing your journey.
No problem. Thank you much for inviting me. Thank you for your transparency. I just want you to know, take things one day at a time. You are about to start the most amazing journey of your life going into college. This is your time. This is your season. This is your moment. Embrace all that's happened to you, but know it was only to empower you for a better future. Know it was only preparing you to get to where God wants you to be in life, and know that you can accomplish anything as long as you put your mind to it. You are going to be so amazing.
Thank you, Acacia. Thank you so much. Oh, do you also want to share your social media and your website?
Yes. So my website, www.beyondstemboundaries.org, that is on my social media page as well. Instagram at STEM for you, STEM, the letter 4, YOU. Facebook is Beyond Boundaries Global Leadership and STEM Academy. And TikTok is at STEM for you, STEM, 4, the letter 4. I mean, the number 4, excuse me, and YOU.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Acacia, and thank you to everyone listening. I hope you had a great time enjoying this podcast, as I know I did. You guys know me.
Same.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I hope to see you guys at future podcasts. If you ever have any questions about the Race to Speak Up podcast, feel free to contact me at racetospeakup@gmail.com. And then head over to my social media at Race to Speak Up for updates on future podcasts and future events. Make sure to go over to my website, www.racetospeakup.com, and check out, again, all my events, everything Race to Speak Up, and join the Humanity Rising movement. Humanity Rising offers scholarships for students making a difference in the world through service. Visit www.humanityrising.org for more information. And remember to ask yourself this question: how do you race to speak up?